We're 9 hours a week. My name is Abigail Cook.
I'm Levi Seymour.
I'm Susie Salter.
And I'm Kellen Bramley.
We read the Freedom Writer's Diary. We had to read the foreword by Zlata Filipovic, the senior year, spring 1998, the epilogue, and the afterword. In the foreword, Zlata Filipovic introduces Mrs. Gruhl and the 150 Freedom Writers. She explains them as they had organized themselves and chose to do something different, something memorable, something powerful and humane. They chose to rid themselves of doing things the easy way, the way they've always been done, and choose to write, to create, to fight stereotypes, and live up to the name of the true Freedom Writers. This book is extremely inspirational, and here's a few reasons why.
This book changed my view of what at-risk children should be. What do y'all think?
I think the book shows, a different approach than sometimes we think about at-risk children or something that should be taken like extremely carefully or something that we should dance around. But Miss Gruhl kind of like attacks it head on and confronts the issue directly. And I think that's something that we can learn from her, that just because someone is a quote-unquote at-risk child or at-risk student doesn't mean that they're a person that should be ignored or treated way, way differently.
This book definitely changed my view of at-risk children. Prior to reading this book, I mainly had a negative view of at-risk children. This book showed me that it's not the children's fault that they are in a bad situation. They may act badly simply because they don't know what else to do. Their parents may always act violently, so the kids learn by example.
So, do you feel that the diary entries were the best way to help these kids at risk?
Possibly. Miss Gruhl seems like a good guide and counselor for her students, and without her, these students would still be struggling. I think that through the help of a supportive teacher and writing through diary entries, these kids realized their at-risk status. My counselor at school wasn't helpful at all, and I think that students should have a resource because high school is tough for all kids, public and private.
I agree with you. I'm not so sure it was so much as the diary entries, but the fact that Miss Girl actually showed that she cared and gave the kids the attention that they weren't receiving in their personal lives at home.
What was your favorite diary entry, and how can you relate to it?
My favorite diary entry was Diary 114. In this diary, the girl talks about when she was younger wanting to fit in. She felt one way to fit in was to wear designer clothes. This reminds me of myself. I always had to have brand name clothes. I'm still this way. I was voted best dressed in high school. I like the fact that this girl realized that material things don't make you a better person. It was a lesson I can learn from.
I also agree. My favorite diary entry was 114 as well, but for a different reason. I didn't have a father figure in my life, and she talks about how her father didn't support her either.
One thing I thought was interesting was how the Freedom Writers felt about getting their book published. Why and how do you think that you would feel uh, if you were in that situation?
I would be very surprised to see, if I was an at-risk child, because nobody really expects anything from you, and they don't really expect you to put forth any effort. And I would be surprised to have my diary entries published and to see that all my hard work finally paid off.
I think that that's right along the lines of what I was thinking. That if I'm in a situation where I'm not given any recognition like ever for anything that I've done, and on top of that, things that I've worked hard on aren't seen as something that's important. And so to have a book published and have that published book be so well received, I think was really good for them, and I think I would also feel overwhelmed by that.
Do you think more students should be required to read this book?
I do. I mean, I don't know exactly what the statistic is on high schoolers reading this book or it being taught in a university, but I definitely think you can learn a lot just about perseverance and then taking action when you see things that aren't going right, especially in the teaching profession. And as a teacher, I think you can learn loads from this book.
I agree. I believe that a lot of high school students can relate with these diaries. One of the diaries, number 136, said, I lived in a neighborhood where sounds of gunshots were my lullaby. We hear about all this kind of stuff in the news, but I have never experienced it for real, and sometimes it just doesn't seem real. And then the other diary that I thought was interesting was 138, and it said that the girl lived with parents who smoked crack. I just couldn't imagine that, and I think that reading this and other students that are experiencing the same thing can learn from the Freedom Riders' diaries.
Another question I had was how important to the teaching profession are Aaron Gruel and the Freedom Riders, or like what can we learn from them?
Aaron Gruel and the Freedom Riders show educators everywhere that the bad kids can learn and grow. People are products of their environment. You can't discount a person just because of the way they were raised.
I would say they play a huge role to the teaching profession because I personally have had some professors that didn't know my name and probably wouldn't even recognize me as soon as I walked out of the classroom. So I think it shows that if a teacher actually cares about her students, that they can achieve anything.
I think that's true. Also, I think that it definitely shows just because of what Aaron Gruel did that one teacher can change like a whole district because that whole school district is getting a lot more publicity and a lot of good publicity instead of just being sort of another bad spot in the public education system. She and the Freedom Riders changed it to where it was an inspirational story and an inspiration to future teachers.
The next section we read was the epilogue. In the epilogue, it shows the Freedom Riders after high school. They plan a trip to Europe to see Anne Frank's attic. They also talk about how Columbine made them want to preach peace even more. One child even died of cystic fibrosis right before the Europe trip. The next section was the afterword. It contains 10 more diary entries from the Freedom Riders about life after high school. The Freedom Riders tell all of the adventures and struggles they faced after high school. It ended on a good note. Diary 10 showed 2 Freedom Riders who married and had a child together. The spirit of the Freedom Riders continues.
This has been an EDM 310 production by 9 Hours a Week, featuring Abigail Cook,
Susie Salter.
Kellen Bramlett.
And Levi Seymour.